like to invite an eminent senior citizen. He himself is a prolific writer and is a former diplomat and minister, Mr. KB Asante. And let me tell you that you were used in this book without your knowledge.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, Madam Speaker, distinguished friends, because everybody here is distinguished. I learned a lot from him. Although now and again, when I joke with him, I say, look, if you had been good enough to do mathematics, I would have taught you mathematics when you went to Achimota in 1946. And I thought I was the only one who with him, was conspiring in those days. Now, since the bishop is here, the bill about the churches to register actually was a conspiracy between me and him, the first one. And some of you, I don't know what bishops and others feel, but I was then Secretary for Education and Culture. And the stories I heard were terrible, what some of our churches, the leaders did, not the frontline churches. And I thought we had to do something about it. And after the conspiracy, I was asked to put up a draft. Now, each time I drafted, I took it to my friend, Justice Annan. We both looked at it and said, oh, it was not good enough, rubbish. As some of you would know, when you try to, especially the academics, when you try to write something learned, if you sleep over it and go to it next day, you'll find there's a lot of nonsense in it. And that's why some of us have not yet written memoirs. Eventually, the executive thought I was too slow, so they asked some of the bright chaps to write up the paper. And it was done, and the law was published. And the churches got up against it. Again, Justice Annan then saw me and said, look, you are friendly with some of the leaders of the church and so on, they know you. So why don't you call them and have a big meeting? The conspiracy was approved at the top. So all the leaders of the churches, frontline churches, including the Pentecostals and others, I met them at then Ambassador Hotel, which is no more. Some people do not know even what was the Ambassador Hotel. But that was, we met at the Ambassador Hotel, and we went very far. But then Bishop, I think, Akwasi, I think he was, yes, of Kumasi, then posed a question, asked a question about what Christians should believe or what the laws they should obey. Now, I went to a good school, so although I didn't do theology, I knew it was a quotation from some of the learned Catholic priests, other St. Augustine, one of those. And when he did it, some people wanted to reply to it. And I said to myself, how can you argue with a bishop who day and night is doing theology and has read all these things? You must be a big fool to try to argue with him when we are not prepared. So I refused to allow them to talk. And I postponed the meeting. And some went and reported that Akwasi, who was not in good terms with the PNDC, was making some derogatory remarks. And when they wanted to defend the institution, I refused. So I was sacked. I became a mere Secretary for Education and not for Education and Culture. So Culture was sacked from the portfolio of Culture. And that was the end of that exercise. Now, and Justice Annan was not very happy, because he was of the same view that some of these new churches, not all, are not a threat to the development which he envisaged. Now, finally, another conspiracy. Mr. Kwame Nkrumah, you don't know this. I also had conspired against you. Now, Justice Annan, because of his character, he knew a lot. All sorts of people went to him. They told him so many things, and they knew they were safe. They wouldn't be, he would take what they say and not quote them. So I think some people of the Ghana state, something was going to be done about lands and so on. So he called me and whispered to my ears that he had heard this and that was going to happen. I checked, it was true. And so one day I organized some of the chiefs to go and see Mr. Kwame Nkrumah when he was then in charge of, local government. And we had a very fruitful meeting, and what was being proposed was dropped. Now, it was then the chiefs warmed up to him, because it was then he said something that he also hailed from the Ghana state, either to the mother or something, the wife, then the mother. And therefore, you see, so that's right. That's when I got to know this. And they warmed up to him. And after that, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah never did anything wrong, so far as those chiefs were concerned. So, Madam Chairperson, we can go on and on. I thought I was, because of my training and experience, I was very good at dealing with people and so on. But I found in Mr. Justice Annan somebody from whom I learned a lot. He was, as it were, a born diplomat, a man who knew how to get on with others. And we can learn a lot from him. And I'm glad that we have today a book about him. And I hope that more will be written, because this will enable so many people to write more about some aspects of his life, because we can only learn from such great men of the nation. I thank you very much.